Hello class, my name is Mariah Robinson and I will be presenting on Chapter 9 on communication. The first question that is posed within this chapter from the author is, what would an organization look like without communication? And when you think about it, it's actually pretty terrifying. There would be no management, no collaborating, no decision making, basically zero productivity, which in the end would lead to the downfall of an organization. The use of effective communication is a quintessential aspect in an organization for it to run, for it to produce goals, strategies, outcomes, great employees, successful companies, and overall a thriving organization. Communication is the process of transmitting information from one person to another in order to create or shape an understanding or feeling of some sort. So within this chapter, we are presented with 6 steps of the communication process. So the first step is encoding, or messages that are converted into symbols, pictures, or words that are transmitted and received. Second is the message or encoded information being sent. For example, telling employees that they are doing a great job within their work. Third, channel. This is the medium being used to send the message, such as internet, video, email, any instrument that you are using in order to deliver a message. Fourth is decoding, or the interpretation or translation of a message that is being sent. Fifth is feedback, and this is to check on the success within an organization, or check on the success within for an employee. And sixth is the noise, so anything that blocks, distorts, or changes the way a message is being delivered from the sender. So this could be, an alarm going off and you could barely hear what the person was telling you, or this could be the mood that you're in that distorts the message that you intended to get across. So in other terms, the communication process starts with encoding a message. The message is transmitted through a channel and then is being decoded by the receiver. And the feedback allows for improvement of communication, and the noise is something that can hinder receiving the effective communication. So my favorite example of this is the game Telephone that I'm pretty sure we all played when we were a kid. It starts off with first person in line coming up with a message, and they are transmitting it to the person next to them, and that person transmits it to the person next to them, so on and so forth, all the way down the line. And the last person within that line will announce what the message is that they received. And usually it is never the message that was originally created by the first person, and that just shows you that transmitting it through messages down the line gets decoded in different ways and gets received in different ways. So the use of effective communication is extremely important, especially when transmitting it to multiple people. In this chapter, there are presented 2 main forms of communication. The first is nonverbal, and the second is 1- and 2-way communication. First is nonverbal communication, and nonverbal communication is using gestures or body language in order to present information to another person. Second is verbal intonation, and this is emphasizing to certain words or phrases. So when you put emphasis on a certain word in a phrase, it gives it a different meaning than if you put emphasis on another word within the phrase. For example, the example given in the book is Aiden earned a promotion. If you say Aiden earned a promotion, that could mean a bunch of different things. If you say Aiden earned a promotion, it's exciting. You put emphasis on, your excitement. If you say Aiden earned a promotion, you can obviously see that had a different context to it. So the second form of communication is 1- to 2-way communication. So the first is the 1-way communication, which information that flows from the transmitter to the receiver without any feedback from the receiver. So for example, if I say, can you please print out those copies for me? And the receiver does not answer back to me, they just go ahead and print out the copies. That would be an example of 1-way communication. 2-way communication is if I say, it's when the receiver provides feedback from the transmitter. So if I say from the sender, if I go ahead and say, go print out those copies, and the receiver says, okay, how many do you need? That would be a form of 2-way communication because they respond back to the question or the information that I sent. So next, I decided to split the chapter up into the ways that hinder or negatively affect effective communication. Next is task interdependence, and this is when one person is too interdependent on another person and uses them as a resource in order to get work done. Next are the barriers within communication. So first is selective perception, which is we see and hear things that we want to see based on our own personal beliefs. Second is misperception, and is when the message is received in a way that the sender did not intend it to be received. Third is filtering, and that is when you are receiving less than the full amount of information. So for example, if you are having performance evaluation by a manager and they ask you, how do you think things went, so on and so forth, and you say only the positive things that happen and you fail to mention any of the challenges or hurdles that you guys had to overcome within that team. Fourth is information load, and that is when you are faced with obviously too much information at one time that you cannot process what they are sending out. Fifth is organizational, and this comes from the hierarchy structure of an organization, which can obviously cause a lot of barriers. So typically the higher level management will only focus on the big projects and big level issues, while lower level management is more customer based. Sixth is cultural barriers, which can obviously be a big barrier within a workplace, especially a very big workplace. My favorite example to give is that people from different cultures, some cultures can be very vocal with their issues. I know for me, I try not to cause any issues within a workplace. If I have anything to say, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I think we should, I'm a little more laid back when it comes to things like this. But like I said, my favorite example is my grandma. She is French. And like it says in the book, she just definitely leaves little to subjective interpretation. She is very vocal, very opinionated, and will tell you how it is. Lastly is noise. Like I previously mentioned, noise is anything that gets in the way, hinders, or distorts, blocks, changes the way that a message was supposed to be received. So the next topic that I'm going to touch on within this chapter is the differences within the communication skills. So the first skill is listening skill, and this is the ability to find meaning within a message. So it's not just hearing, you are listening, you are finding the deeper message within what is being transmitted to you. Second is writing skills. This is especially important within a workplace because no matter what, you're going to be either writing emails, business letters, memos, the list goes on and on, even if you're just taking notes. I think writing skills, I know from you and what I do, writing skills are one of the most important things for me to have, especially when I'm emailing, VPs. I check my emails 1,700 times because, you want to edit, revise. Some people you don't know if you can use, a graphic for, or if it just needs to be plain text. So it's definitely really, really important to know your audience and who you are writing to. Third is presentation skills. Being able to present information, especially in front of an audience, is definitely one of the best skills I think to have within an organization, because either you're just presenting to a teammate, just one person, or at some point you're going to be presenting to people in a meeting, either via Skype or Zoom meetings or whatever it is. At some point within your career, you will be presenting, and that obviously it's a big challenge for some people. It definitely was a hump for me to get over, but it's a very important skill I think to have. Fourth is meeting skills, and this is making sure that we are presenting meetings in a meaningful way. So I know for my team, we just started doing this and creating agendas for the meetings, so we know exactly what touch points to talk about, because going into a meeting that is just talked about, you're just talking aimlessly and you're just talking in circles, can get very frustrating, and you feel like, I could use this time to actually get work done, yet we're just talking in circles in a meeting. So definitely coming to a meeting with things and touch points to address. So the next point that I'm going to touch on is the use of communication through media. First is the internet, and obviously we use the internet for everything. Emails, voicemails, and especially for me, I use telework. So that is one of the biggest things. I know within my organization, a lot of people telework, and I know it's a big thing nowadays, and still have the ability to work from home and still feel like you are in touch with everything going on at the office is absolutely amazing. Second is collaborating software. So this is such as SharePoint, Google Docs, Google Drive, being able to collaborate on a whole bunch of ideas in one specific document. I know that, again, for me has been really, really, really helpful. And third is intranet, which is a website that is stored within a computer that is also connected to other company-wide computers. So the last touch point that I'm going to talk about is the flow or paths of communication within a workplace. So the first path is downward communication. So downward communication is communication coming from higher level employees down to being communicated down to lower level employees. So higher employees talking to or communicating information to lower level employees. Second is upward communication, which is lower level employees referring information up to higher level employees. Next is horizontal communication, meaning that employees who are all on the same level communicate to each other. So entry level, they communicate towards each other. VPs communicate to each other. And the last type of flow of communication is diagonal communication. So this is when all employees, no matter your level, are all communicating with each other. Basically just skimmed over kind of what I felt were the most important aspects to bring forth within this chapter. So I think communication is one of the most important factors to have within an organization in order to, kind of improve your company and promote success and promote a great company itself and great employees and overall all the gears that come together to produce such a successful organization. Communication, I think, is the key factor to all of that. I definitely recommend that you go in and read this chapter for yourself and kind of dive in a little bit deeper and kind of fill in on the points that I didn't touch on, or understand more of the points that I did touch on, just for your better understanding. The question that I would like to pose to my fellow classmates is, can you name a time when there was miscommunication within your team and what was the outcome of it? Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned a lot about the importance of communication.